So do you want the 3-minute MBA? Everybody okay with the 3-minute MBA? So let's look at resource allocation. In a asset managed business, if I'm looking at assets, I look at asset allocation. If you take that methodology and flip it on its head, what we now go and look for is resource allocation. So the original methodology looked at 20 areas of a business that you need to get right, other than your product, to have the fastest growing, most likely to deliver the shareholders' outcome. So 20 areas. So we look at capability across 20 areas. But there's one or two key things that we found in the P&L world, the P&L world doesn't do well. And it doesn't do building businesses particularly well. That's why it keeps getting stuck in those black holes. So quick MBA on how to run a business or what business is all about. If we say that every single business has some sort of factory where a product gets built, that's lawyers sitting at a desk knocking out strategy. That's a factory where boxes are getting built. That's a pottery where pots are getting built. That's whatever you do in your business. Somebody is building a product. And please hear, in my world, service that somebody pays for is also a product. So legal services are the product. I buy legal services. So when I talk product, it's just whatever the client pays for. Somebody's building something. Somebody will have sold it, your brand, your marketing, your website. Somebody sold that. You have to build it. So we have a sale going on up here. We have a factory, and we have some form of delivery system to get it out to, and what do we need at the end of that? Good, customers, clients. That's just the pulse check question, make sure you're still awake. So selling a product, building a product, delivering a product, talking to clients, doing all of that in a business creates what, brings in what, produces what? Cash flow, everybody happy with cash flow? Cool. So everybody's got one of them in their business. Supporting this is a back office. What kind of things go on in the back office? Admin, HR. Depends what kind of operations. If it's blue operations, they're blue. If it's red operations, they're red. What else sits in here? Accounting and finance. Premise management. Legal. IT. Got the idea? So blue brings cash flow, red brings... Spoken like a true sales guy. What does red bring? Cost. So most people go red minus blue equals what? Or blue minus red equals what? Everybody agree blue minus red equals profit? You're wrong, it's margin. So I was just playing. It's the only trick question we ask. The key is what you do with that margin. So in my world, profit is what you do with excess over margin. We all need to make a margin, but what do we do with it? This is when I start looking at these jumps and going, what are you doing with your cash here? What are you doing with the cash here? And is it different? And very often it's different. So let's just call it margin, which creates what we call profit, or black. And that is shareholder value, so increase in shareholder value or next year's profitability, next year's income. So does that make sense? So give me some of the things that would be in black. Certain type of marketing would be. R&D would be. Marketing is actually blue. If marketing, you've got to think the outcome of the activity is revenue this year, then it's blue. And most people do marketing to bring clients this year, yes? So what kind of marketing would be for the future? Yeah, brand or PR or position. So brand, positioning. For the mid-tier market, Lindsay Boyd would kill me if she heard me say this. For the mid-tier market, brand is irrelevant. No lightning bolt. Brand's irrelevant. What is important is position. You're only really interested in brand if you're up against Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Levi's. Now, the brand has to match your position. It can't look stupid. So if you say we're really green and you have an orange brand, that kind of doesn't work. So brand just has to match your position. But your position in the marketplace is far more important. And I'll give you an idea of how well people understand positioning. So quick question, do you know why there's a big four? Anything? Big four accountants, big four car companies, big four car hire companies, big four credit card companies. Why is there a big four? Now, if you don't instantly know the answer, there's one of the biggest issues in mid-tier small businesses today. If you don't understand why there is one of 4 positions to own, then you don't know how to drive the positioning of your own business.
The available share of mind in the customer?
Now, I'm not going to do that one in detail unless we get to the end, we've got some time. It's just, if you're sitting there going, actually, that's a bloody good question. Why is there a big 4? I've done that in branding seminars where there's 25, 30 brand people in the room and they can't tell me why there's a big 4. And there's reams of books written on it. There's reams of stuff out there. But again, we didn't go to a school called How to Run and Build Your Business, unless some of you did. I didn't. So nobody ever taught me why there is a big 4 and how to build one of them, for example. But let's assume that that's correct. The sort of things that sit up there are joint ventures, mergers, acquisitions, bringing new product to market, opening new channels, all that kind of stuff. Make sense? So the outcome of that activity is an increase in the value of the business. So Apple opened China as a new channel, share price goes up. Apple bring a new product to market, share price goes up. Make sense? So if that makes sense, does anybody not believe that model makes sense? Okay, if that model makes sense, then the management of those 3 resources in your business dictates your profitability. Yes or no? So do you, yes or no? Happy with that? Yeah. So do you have a formula that tells you what that mix should be? It's just that tumbleweed moment. And the answer was, when I first saw this, was no, bloody hell, why not? So would you like to work out how to build that into your process? 2 minutes. So this is the 3-minute MBA, don't forget. So let's build a team. You have 3 people available to you. You have red people available, you have blue people available, you have black people available. We're going to start a team from day 1. We're going to start with a blue person, a red person, or a black person. Everybody happy with blue? We're going to start with a blue. Blue's where the money is, so we start with P1. P1 goes out, starts to bring a bit of business in, starts to get busy, starts to rush around, banks a few checks, it's all going well. And P1 says, I need help. Who does P1 normally go and hire? Red. Yep, everybody says red, so no problem. It's a beautiful model. So we have A1 shows up, A1 reports to P1. It's a really simple model. Incredibly simple. I'm now, all my quotes are done. All the stuff I'm hopeless at is getting done really, really well. I'm now able to go out and get even more business. I'm busy as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, and it's going fantastic. And I get busy, and A1 gets busy, and typically says what? I need A2. So A2 shows up, and I spoke, A2 reports to, and? Yeah, because P1 doesn't ask A1 to go and ask A2 to make a cup of coffee. We're all sitting around the same desk in a WeWork office. Like this is not a complicated business model. I spoke to 1,500 IFAs down in South Africa, in Cape Town and Sun City, and every single one of them, pretty much in the room, built their business this way. This one lady walked up to me and said, because when these 2 get busy, by the way, and A1 was a mate's friend's uncle's daughter who wasn't busy and was cheap, typically. When you're 80,000 turnover and you've got to suddenly explain to your spouse where you're about to pay some money to somebody else and you're still working hard all day, they come cheap. So typically these are not well-trained, highly efficient, super honed, brilliant administration people. So when they get busy, how good am I at running around getting stuff done and creating a mess? If I'm a lawyer or an accountant or an architect, I'm pretty good at making a mess, aren't I? Like, and I'll work 16, 18 hours a day because it's my business, and I'll work all weekend, and I'll come in Monday morning with 25 things to type up and send off. And pretty soon these 2 say what? Yep, A3 rocks up, and you'd be stunned how many 4-person businesses I've seen that look like that. Now who does P1 work for? They're not working for me anymore. Now I'm coming in and going, well, do something, will you? I'm paying for this. It's the Ghostbusters model. So it doesn't work, ever. So let's try a different model. Let's instead go, we'll start with P1. I'm assuming we're all happy with P1 as the start, yeah? Okay, so we add P1. Who do we add now? P1's busy. Okay, let's go the normal route. Let's add A1. Then what would you add? Can't add A2. P2 and A1 says, I'm too busy. So the absolute rule is, and you learned it quicker than most, you can't appoint A1 this early in the team build. You have to go P2. How much management does that team need? None. If the phone's ringing and I'm not answering, it must be your turn. If I didn't lock up, it must be you. It needs no management whatsoever. We'll do our own admin. We'll make plenty of money because we'll both get to 80,000, so we'll get to 160,000 turnover, no problem at all. No management time needed, nothing. Fantastic. Who do you add next? P3. Good girl. P3. Now, that's a dynamic shift of a exponential order. Does that now need managing? Yes. If you get the chance, Google somebody, anybody, nobody, and everybody. Somebody, anybody, nobody, and anybody. And it's a fascinating piece. If I had it here, I'd read it to you quickly, unless you've got it quickly. And it's just the best dysfunctional business I've ever seen. And it's the way most businesses explain to me how their operation runs. If I can find it, we sent it out to a client the other day because they literally described their business as this piece. I saw this on a pillar inside a business years ago. Beautiful, immaculate office, paperless. And there was this one A4 page sitting up on a... thanks. We'll need these. So... here's the story, if you get this wrong. This is a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. Called my business before my first coach showed up. So typically what happens at this point is if I didn't lock up, these two will go, we thought it was you. So I now need some management, but it's only a small amount. Who do I add now? Everybody happy with A1? Yeah. Okay, we now add A1. We've now set a ratio. We've killed a couple of things stone dead. No hierarchy. I'm working for all 3 of you. I didn't start off working for this person, and you two aren't as important because I was here first, which is what a lot of these people I see there, 16, 17 years they've been in that position, and you step on their toes and see what happens. Yep, I now work for 3 people. It is the single most efficient, most profitable team ever built. A 4-person team will get through to 600 revenue in that in phase if they build it properly, no problem at all. I've seen 4-person teams get through to 1.5 million if they're properly organized. Now, let's see if you can solve the problem that nobody else has been able to solve yet. Now, who do I add to that team? And there's your problem. Who could we add? Well, there's already black, so I'm already doing enough resource. But let's just say I added a full-time black. Full-time black for me is I don't do any revenue at all. Am I likely to be the highest paid employee if I'm all black? But I am likely to be. If I'm the big strategist and I can do all the big deals and increase the shareholder value and bring all the stuff for next year. But this year we're going to go broke because I'm now paying 2 people the most expensive and the least expensive, and 3 people have got to supply that ratio. So I just changed my ratio from 3 to 1. So who can I add? It's fascinating, isn't it? Yet you never got taught this. I never got taught this. I went blindly through this and screwed it up time after time after time. Let's got to add somebody. Business is going hell for leather. I need to take somebody on. Who am I going to take on? Another blue, and red says? So let's do that. We're going to put on another blue, P4, which means I instantly need A2. And what have I now caused? 2 silos. Well, I'm working with those 2 because I was here first. You work with those 2, Muppets. It's called the Muppet model. What's my ratio gone from? It's gone from 3 to 1 to 2 to 1. How much management do I now need to do? It's getting messy. So half my time is now spent running around. And am I doing strategic management or am I doing admin management? I'm admin managing. So half of the number 1 revenue owner's just gone out the door. Let's keep going though. So that's 6. Who would I add now? Another partner. So I put another P1, P4, P5 shows up. And A2 says, I can't cope with that. 7's the worst number, by the way, because now all of my time is managing, and this person goes on holiday. Or phones in Monday morning and not well. What happens? All hell breaks loose, and I find myself doing most of the admin. So I now have 1, 2, 3 non-earning resources being paid for by 1, 2, 3, 4, and my ratio's just gone to 1 to 1.5. It's the worst it ever gets. 7 doesn't work. Teams of 4 work. Teams of 7 don't. 12 works. 17 doesn't. 24 works. 33 doesn't. 48 works, etc. So I can walk into businesses turning over 800 million, look at their team size, and work out what's going wrong. Most law firms get stuck at 7 in silos. Is this making sense? You all knew this?
What was after 12?
After 12, 17 doesn't work. Because again, if you just keep building the ratios, we do this exercise with our clients and actually get them to build the ratios and put real numbers behind it, and it demonstrates big black holes in their revenue profitability generation as they move from one to the next. I see law firms do this a lot of the time. They'll build through that. They'll go all the way from 1 up to 12, and at 12, they'll make a load of money. At 12, it's a very efficient business. We're back to a ratio of 3. So the ratio at 12, by the way, is 8 blue, 1 black, 3 red. 8 blue, 1 black, 3 red. Black in a 12-person team is completely different to black in a 4-person team. In a 4-person team, most of what you're doing is revenue generation. You're working on the top clients. You're managing the team. In black, you're building distribution channel. You're looking after your brand. You're very, very different job. So it's a different skill set. Black, 12 people, you should be doing 1.5 million minimum. So you've already jumped that. So somewhere in that team will be somebody doing most of the management. You won't be doing it, if that makes sense. So if you keep on going, at 12, making loads of money, so the luxury purchase shows up here, the receptionist, and then the managing partner wants a secretary, and then the 2 senior partners want a secretary, and you get up to about 17, and the business stops making money. And in a small business world, you know everybody, you know their families, you know their kids' names, you know which school they go to, so they're all friends. So when the money starts to run out, how quickly do you cut people in the small business world? You don't. You wait until what? You run out of money, and there's no choice. And with head hanging and a heavy heart, you pull some people in the room and you go, I'm really sorry, and you go back to 12 people. And suddenly you make a fortune again. You go, those were obviously idiots. Because same team's now making plenty of money, so you have another go. Up to 17, back to 12. Up to 17, back to 12. I see it happen over and over. I did it 4 times. I got up to 18 staff, back to 12. 18 staff, back to 12. And it beggared belief. I couldn't believe every time I went back to 12, the turnover the next month went up. And I couldn't understand where I kept finding all these idiots from. Until I finally looked in the mirror. If only somebody had told me, Nick, all you need to do is get through to 24. At 24, you'll start making loads of money. At 24, I hit 3 million and exploded. I tried for 6, didn't like it, didn't like the job I had to do at 6, went back to 3, stuck at 3 for about 15 years, made a load of money and had a ball. Was a business I didn't think I could sell. My coach came along, and literally I'd calculated 250,000 to give my business away. I was going to have to spend 250 to shut it down. He came in, coached it for 18 months, and we sold it for just under 3 million. So I'm sold on the product. I like the product. Does this make sense to people? Does this kind of resonate with you? How many of you running under 10 teams? Under 10? Okay, you've got all this to come. Now you know the answer. Stay away from 7s. They're bad news. Build 3 teams of 4. You want to get to 12.